rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. The next chapter is Babun fi tahrim al-hujran bayn al-muslimin fawqa thalathati ayyam. وعن أنس رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, Messenger of Allah said, لا تقاطعوا ولا تدابروا. Do not cut each other off, and do not turn your backs towards one another, like you don't want to talk to somebody. ولا تباغضوا, and do not have hatred towards one another. ولا تحاسدوا, and don't be jealous of one another. وكونوا عباد الله إخوانا, but be brothers to Allah, be servants of Allah as brothers and as sisters. ولا يحل لمسلم أن يهجر أخاه فوق ثلاث, and it is not permissible for any Muslim to abandon or to neglect or to cut off his brother for more than three. Muttafaqun alayh. This is in Bukhari and Muslim. So if we look at this hadith, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is talking about how a community is supposed to behave, how specifically a Muslim community, that you're not supposed to cause problems between each other. How do you do that? If you get upset, somebody does something to you, you don't cut them off completely. You don't turn your back and say, I don't want to even see this person. I don't want to say salam to this person. You don't hate them. You don't get jealous of them, because this is going to break up. First, it's going to cause something in your heart. And two, it's going to break up the community. So you don't do these things. And he says, be like brothers and sisters, that you care about one another. So be like that in general. And then he said a principle, the default rule. Default rule is that you don't avoid anyone and cut them off for more than three. He didn't say 3 days, 3 months, whatever it is, but scholars explain it's 3 days. So you don't do that for more than 3 days. Someone says, okay, fine, 3 years. I only cut him off for 3 years. I'll talk to him again a few years later. No. But then what happens is, this is the default principle. The default rule is that you don't do that. So if we fall into the trap of something, somebody did something or said something mean or didn't like us, whatever it was, it's very tempting to say, I don't want to talk to this person ever again. I want to have nothing to do with this person. They're your brother in Islam. They're your sister in Islam. So yesterday we looked at another hadith where I mentioned the hadith could be misunderstood if you don't understand what the scholars have said about that. This hadith is similar, because I didn't read the entire title of the chapter to you, because remember, Imam al-Nawawi, his commentary on these hadith are primarily contained in the chapter titles, and then sometimes, like yesterday's hadith, he goes into a little detail. So the entire chapter title Imam Nawawi put was Babun fi tahrim al-hujrani bayn al-muslimin fawqa thalathati ayyam. It says the chapter on the prohibition of neglecting or boycotting between Muslims for more than 3 days, illa li bid'atin fil mahjuri aw tadahurin bi fisqin aw nahwi dhalik. He said, except for person who is doing an innovation in something that is not allowed, or is openly engaging in some type of sin, or something like that, nahwi dhalik, something similar to that. So Imam Nawawi gives 2 examples, and he says, and there's a third, he says, etc. He says it's allowed to cut somebody off in these scenarios. He says illa, meaning there's an exception, istithna. So why does he mention that? What are these categories here? It's talking about harm or needing to teach the person a lesson. When it comes to somebody who is engaging in innovation, innovation means a harmful, sinful innovation. They are causing problems within the Muslim community. So by avoiding them, at least for a period of time, you're sending 2 signals. Signal number 1, that we are not associating with you because of the type of behavior that you're engaging in, so that the person stops. And signal number 2, so that you don't become associated with that person in the bad things that they're doing. If you look at tazahur bil fisq, same category. Someone is openly, doing drugs, drinking alcohol, harming this person, doing horrible things. If you associate with them, If you do a boycott, even for a period of time, you're sending two main things you're achieving. Number one is you're explaining that I'm not part of the bad stuff that you're doing, and I don't want to, I don't want to be associated with that. And number two, you're protecting yourself from being harmed by being influenced by that person. So what happens is that when people look at this hadith, and many scholars, not only Imam Nawawi, Imam Ibn Abdul Barr explains this in his commentary on Muwatta, so many other scholars have said the exact same principle. This is not some innovation that the scholars have come up with. They're explaining that the principle of la darar wa la dirar. You do not harm anybody, but you do not allow yourself to be harmed. If somebody's constantly harming you, insulting you, stalking you, causing a problem, well, what do? You say, well, you know what? Then the person says, you're not allowed to cut me off for more than 3 days. I'm going to show up to your house again every 3 days, and I'm going to cause you a problem or something. That's maybe an exaggerated scenario, has some hyperbole there. But if you do something like that, if you're being harmed, you have permission to set a boundary with that person and say, you know what? The level of harm that they're going to be causing me, there's an illa, there's an exception, there's an istithna. When somebody's harming you so much, you don't continue to get harmed by them. Even though the default, the general principle is be good to everyone. Try to maintain good relationships with everyone. But there's always exceptions. Exceptions need to be applied in the exceptional circumstance. If you're starving in the desert, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, if you have nothing else to eat and there's no other food and you're forced by necessity, you can even eat something that's haram. If there's only pork, now how rare is this scenario? You're going to be stuck in a desert on a hiking trail, you're dying, and there's nothing else except haram food. Extremely rare scenario, right? But the principle is still there. The default should be you do not cut other people off. At minimum, you don't have to connect with them all the time. At minimum, difficult family member or something, call them on Eid. Send them a text message on the 2 Eids. Maybe once a month, maybe once every 3 months. Do something where you keep some level of distance to protect yourself. You don't have to be their best friend every single day, but you don't cut them off. But when someone is harming you to the extent that it's becoming a really, really big problem, there is an exception to the rule, either to send a signal or to protect yourself. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a correct understanding of this and how to apply it in our lives. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put love and mercy and care in our hearts as Muslim brothers and sisters for each other. Ameen wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.